Welcome back to my bookshelf tour. Last bookshelf tour took a diversion into a review of the documentary Crumb, all about Robert Crumb, the underground artist kind of springing up in the early 60s, I guess 50s, early 60s. I basically did a little mini review of the movie, the documentary, which I think even if you find Robert Crumb reprehensible as an artist, if you even consider him an artist and not maybe just a pornographer, misogynist. I think the documentary is kind of fascinating as a glimpse into someone's very troubled his life, his family life. There actually a little addendum to that. There are kind of questions. He had family members who didn't participate in the movie, sisters who. According to Zygoff and that, they said they didn't want to participate. One of the sisters kind of disputes that and says no, it was that was Wygoff's decision, and sort of more about the wanting to do the tortured, make it about the tortured artist. It's one of these things, and just in that of, like, regardless of what Robert Crumb's background is, I think he has to be responsible for the art he's produced. And I'm not endorsing everything that Robert Crumb produces or has produced. It's definitely a certain kind of work, which it's definitely delving into all his darkest and worst impulses, and the darkest and worst impulses that he maybe saw in the world around him. Whether he's some people are just not interested in that sort of stuff. Some people feel that if you're going to deal with that stuff, you have to deal with it in a sensitive, delicate manner, or maybe, yeah. So it's one of those issues. Robert Crumb. Let's get on to his actual work. There is a series that Fantagraphics has produced, which I collected a fair number of issues of, which is called The Cmplt Crmb, and I go from volume 2 all the way to volume 17. I don't know how much further on it goes, but it's what it says on the package. It's basically the Cmplt Crmb through the years. I skipped volume 1 because it's juvenilia, and started on volume 2, which is volume 2, some more early years of bitter struggle, which starts with little Billy Bean in 1962 and goes to sketchbooks still in, or well, that's sketchbooks 1962, but R. Crumb's Comics and Stories in April 1964. So definitely a 60s artist, probably when he was actually starting to get published. And in his early works, I mean, you can see some of this stuff is, I think we're still in kind of juvenilia area, which, I couldn't actually do now. There's a lot of his anthropomorphic stuff of, like, kittens and cats in various, like, adventures, but it's sort of fairly adult kind of adventures of kind of things of romance, fairly light stuff. I think I remember his first wife talking about his works early on and how they were definitely kind of more light and romantic. Here he is actually trying to do a 3-panel strip, Roberta Smith, Office Girl, and he's done like a series on that. We get a lot of kind of cat stuff, which I don't know if it's Fritz the cat. Then we get, in the back, we get some of his kind of sketches from the time, where you can see, like, somebody, early on had fairly good material, but, like, yeah, various covers of stuff, more him doing, kind of working of doing drawings from old, what I think are movie stills. I think that is probably his ex-wife at the time. Kind of a wistful, kind of interesting, kind of the line art, and yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, see, it's got the giant woman, and then the little Robert Crumb below, and yeah, he has issues with women, and that is very much reflected, and it's very much a part of his work throughout. That's a common theme throughout the thing, is Robert Crumb and women. Yes, Cmplt Crmb 3 is Fritz the cat, which is kind of an early kind of character that he did a lot of stuff with, and yes, you kind of have it's a very lascivious cat going home with a sexy cat girl. So you know we're not into that whole sexy Bugs Bunny thing, or you know, just finding cartoon characters as kind of interesting characters was interesting. What am I trying to say? We also have him kind of dealing in racial stereotypes, stuff like the black crows, very much, you know, the Song of the South kind of territory. Even early on in his works, he's argued that, you know, he used racist stuff, but he was using it for a hippie audience who was going to realize that that was racist, and that he was commenting on it. We definitely get a lot of stuff of him dealing with kind of the 50s man as well in a lot of these things. A lot of it seeming to come from his rather sadistic and brutal father. But we're definitely getting more into kind of groovy kind of 60s style here in these things. Actually, that's one of these things. I think I skip over 4 for some reason, and we do get into kind of the hippie culture, where yeah, we've got Fritz the cat here. We have got probably the big one, Mr. Natural being one, and yeah, this is Angel Food McSpade, which is, yes, incredibly racist, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things of, as a white person, obviously I'm not saying certain words, and I can't think as a white cartoonist working today you would ever use that kind of imagery now, which is interesting, of how things become were acceptable, or at least it was used in he claims was used in a satirical manner, but that if you ever produced a comic with that now, you would get, the whole world would quite rightly go down on you. The character of Mr. Natural was sort of this whole kind of hippie kind of guru kind of thing, but also somebody who was very much about naturalness, about, you know, about being very kind of talking very frankly about sex and stuff like that. We also get, you know, start getting a lot more like kind of violence against women in his comics. A lot of that kind of, that anger, him carrying a dead woman's body around with him, just like, it's disturbing stuff. You know, a lot of it's a very open expression of the misogyny of the time, and I don't know if we should feel grateful for someone like Robert Crumb for highlighting that sort of stuff, versus hiding it. You know, it's like someone talked about, like, this is like Bruegel. I don't know if you can go that far in that kind of assessment. So yeah, you have very kind of racist on this side, and you have kind of like almost like violence of like smashing your face into a woman's face so violently. It's just like, I have to say, it's stuff that really kind of, I don't know, it weirdly appeals to me. It weirdly resonates with me, and then you get stuff like that. I mean, I guess this should have all my explicit. None of my things are done, none of my videos are for children. But oh boy, my Robert Crumb section, really not. He's probably most famous for his Zap comics. Yeah, that is the Robert Crumb of the style. There's Fritz cat copying a feel on the front of his comic. So you have the anamorphic cat, but also, you know, obviously that kind of weird sexiness side of things. You know, you have things like police brutality at the same time, and of course, it's what is it? It's brutality towards women as well. So Robert Crumb is a complex, and I would argue an interesting artist. I'm going to stop there on volume 4, and we'll probably continue with some more Robert Crumb, because I think he's worth looking at, and worth considering as a comic artist who couldn't work today, who couldn't work. I mean, he's still working today, but who probably him. I can't imagine a comic artist saying what he was saying back then today. Like, and I don't know if that's if it's a good, how much of that is a good thing and how much of that is a bad thing. And it's a mix. It's a mix. A part of that is that women and people of color and that actually have their own voices and can speak out against this stuff without having some white guy without kind of a lived experience be the one who gets the platform to speak on all this stuff. But there's also just a sort of a crazy freedom of being able, of having an artist, someone who is troubled but is incredibly talented, to be able to let loose unfiltered, which is definitely the sense that you get with Robert Crumb, for good and ill, that he's not filtering what's in there. And there's a part of that is that the best antiseptic is to just sort of let things go out, let things out and expose them to the light, and that's the best antiseptic. That's the best way of somehow dealing with them. I mean, now the thing is, Robert Crumb has fans who are probably less troubled by this stuff than I am. So is he also is he popular also to that audience? I kind of admitted in a lot of my videos that obviously I have my own issues with is it we'll call it objectifying women, of, you know, of loving the female form, of finding it sexually attractive. And I have, you know, as much as there's there's good hunks of Robert Crumb that are distasteful, there's probably other parts that we slightly are simpatico in what we're turned on by, which is a disturbing thing to say. Probably more disturbing to hear, for someone else to hear me say. But and you know, you have to go like, well, if I'm also turned on by this stuff, what does that say about me as well? So I find it valuable that way. I find it uncomfortable to talk about that way. But I guess I am. And yeah, it's good. I think it's probably better. I do think it's better talked about, better brought out into the light than it is hidden away, tucked away. Of course, I'm doing this on my private channel. I wonder how I'd feel if I was doing this on a channel that had 560 subscriptions and could, you know, potentially everyone was watching it. Well, the 12 people that actually watched that channel were watching it. How I would feel about talking about it then. I'm doing it here as my baby's training wheels of talking about stuff, even though, you know, I guess potentially this goes viral and there's like, let's not even go there. All right. This bookshelf tour, very long and rambly, is over, and I will come back later with another one on more Robert Crumb. We'll see if I go in the same detail or if I ease back and just kind of hold up covers for you. All right, more videos later.